Guys, this is probably the best value 5-star for free-to-play players we got in a while. Firefly is going to be able to deal super good amounts of break damage, and she's going to be incredibly free-to-play friendly to build, starting off from her stats, her teams, and everything. You definitely don't want to miss out on her if you're trying to get a good DPS rare account. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how she works and how to build her and where and how to use her. So yeah, let's begin. Alright, so starting off with her kit, I'm going to explain how she works very quick. First of all, her normal attacks, she's just going to deal fire damage to a single target enemy. You probably never want to use those at all. Now for her skill, it's going to consume some of your HP, but then it's going to also deal fire damage to an enemy that's going to scale off of your attack and also regenerate your energy by a huge amount actually. It depends on your level, but it's more than 50%. So if you do your skill twice, you're guaranteed to have your ultimate ready, but it's also going to consume a huge amount of your HP, so be careful out of that. Her ultimate, you're just going to enter like an enhanced state. So when you press it, it's going to advance your action by 100%, just like Jing Liu's skill, for example, or talent. So as soon as you press it, you're going to get a turn and you're going to be able to attack. It's also going to increase your speed by a huge amount. So during your ultimate, you're going to get many more turns. And then when you're in this enhanced state, it's going to change up your normal attacks and also your skill. First of all, it's going to increase their weakness break efficiency and also your break damage for your normal attacks and skill. Your normal attack is just going to be able to deal more damage and also restore your HP. And your skill is going to be able to restore your HP too, apply a fire weakness to a single target enemy, and then deal damage based around your break effect and attack mixed together. So it's going to be dual scaling. The maximum break effects that you can take advantage of is going to be 360%. Her ultimate is not going to end by turns or anything like that. It's just going to have a turn on its own, like a counter, just like Robin's. That's going to have 70 speed. When it gets its turn, then your ultimate is just going to end. That's it. Now finally, her talent is going to be pretty important too for Firefly. It's going to reduce the damage you take and also increase your effect resistance and give you some energy sometimes. Now moving on to her Ascension traces, they're actually going to be pretty important, so you don't want to ignore them for sure. But before we continue that though, make sure you listen carefully because you might be able to win a gaming console, a smartphone, or even 5k worth of Amazon gift cards. To participate for a chance to win that, you can download Raid Shadow Legends from the QR code or the link in the description, and then participate in their current Summer Tavern minigame event. Go to summertavern.plarium.com, enter your raid ID, then start to search for hidden items to prepare a refreshing potion for a champion. You can also get a 2-month YouTube premium subscription by downloading Raid before July 17th and playing at least for 5 days and hitting level 20 within 30 days. Also, if you never downloaded Raid Shadow Legends yet, you can use the promo code Monkey King. That's gonna give you a free super good character, Sun Wukong. He's gonna be able to steal all the buffs from enemies before attacking them and place a block buff on them. He also has a Staff of Wonder attack that can ignore 50% of the enemy's defense. And also his passive can revive him fully if he dies. Yeah, that's like having Bailu, Ranmei, Pela in the same character in Honkai terms. So he's definitely pretty broken. Raid Shadow Legends is a very interesting game because it's gonna allow you to acquire champions and build them and use them in different strategies just like Honkai Star Rail. But it also has a PvP mode which can allow you to test your skills and build against other players, which is my favorite thing about the game. You can download it now from the QR code and the link in the description and participate in their Summer Tavern event. If you do that, there are also 2 other awesome champions that you can get by downloading from my link. Tayril, who's one of the best debuffing champions in the game, and also Rector Drat after reaching level 25, which is one of the best supports in the game. Come find me under the name Camilo YT and join my clan, also the same name, Camilo YT. Alright, so back to Firefly's Ascension traces. The first trace is that's gonna allow you to reduce the enemy's toughness even if they don't have a fire weakness on them during your ultimate. That's gonna be pretty good even though she's able to apply like fire weaknesses on enemies, but for like smaller enemies, adjacent ones, if you attack them and they don't have a fire weakness, you're just gonna be able to break them faster, which is pretty good. The second Ascension trace, which is super good, when you're inside of your ultimate and you have break effects with either 200% or 360%, it's gonna give you an instance of either 35% or 50% super break damage. Super break is gonna scale off with your toughness reduction and your break effects, and the multiplier of your toughness reduction is gonna depend. If you have 200%, it's gonna be 35%, and if you have 360%, it's gonna be 50%, which is pretty good. You usually want to have 360% to take full advantage out of that because it's gonna be pretty decent extra damage. And then the final Ascension trace, which is the most important one in my opinion, for every 10 attack that Firefly has that exceeds 1800, it's gonna increase your break effects by 0.8%. So it's gonna allow you to just build attack on her, and with attack you're gonna gain break effect, which is one of the biggest things that's gonna make her very easy to build. You don't even need to build crit in the first place because mainly you're gonna be dealing only break damage. That's not really gonna crit. All of her attacks are just gonna scale off with break effects and attack. And even attack and break effects, you don't really need to build them like separately. You can also mix them. If you build attack, you're also gonna gain some break break effects, which is pretty good. Okay, so now moving on to her traits priorities. The first thing you'd want to upgrade is going to be your skill for sure. That's going to be your main source of damage. You just want to be doing it every single time you have a chance. It's going to deal much more damage and you're going to be able to deal that extra break effect, so it's pretty good. You just never want to use your normal attacks with Firefly at all. Then you probably just want to upgrade your ultimate, mainly just for that speed enhance. It's going to be pretty valuable. It's just going to allow you to, you know, have many more turns inside of your ultimate. So you definitely want to build speed on her in the first place, and then that speed enhance is going to be pretty good. That's probably it with what you want to upgrade. I mean, you can upgrade her talent and her normal attack. Her talent is cool for survivability, but usually you still want to run a sustain with her. It's not going to be enough to sustain Firefly, and even if it does, you still need to sustain for your other characters. So yeah, you're just going to run a sustain, so it doesn't really matter as much. Normal attacks, as I said, you just don't want to use them at all, so probably just skip them. Alright, now moving on to her Eidolons. She's definitely going to be enough and broken at E0, but we're just going to go through them and see which ones have the better value. First of all, E1, when you use your skill to attack, is going to ignore 15% of the target's defense. Simply just much more damage, and that's it. Pretty good for an E1. It's definitely pretty good. E2 is also super good. It's that when you break an enemy first with either your normal attack or your skill, it's just going to allow you to have an extra turn immediately. It's going to be able to give you probably one extra turn, maybe two per enemy, because you're not going to be like breaking them as much. Or if you kill like smaller enemies, you're going to get an extra turn too. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's just more turns, obviously more damage, so it's pretty good. E3 is just going to increase level of your skill and your basic attacks. Decent. E4 is just going to increase your effect resistance by 50% when you're inside of your ultimate. I mean, it's cool, I guess, but as I said before, you usually just want to run a sustain on her, so it doesn't really matter as much. For an E4, I'd definitely say it's not worth it. E5 is just going to increase level of your ultimate and talent. I mean, for an E5, I would say definitely not worth it. And then finally, E6, when you're inside of your ultimate, it's going to increase Sam's fire resistance penetration by 20%. That's just simply more damage. And then it's going to increase your weakness break efficiency by 15%. So you can just break enemies much faster. I mean, it's also cool, but for an E6, I'd say it's kind of mid-ish at least. It's not like too mid. It's a little better than average, but it's definitely not like a super good or necessary E6 that's going to like completely change how you play her or anything like that. It's just going to be good, you know. So yeah, for Eidolons, I'd say just stick with E0 to be honest. Maybe E1 if you're trying to get that defense ignore, and that's it. Other than that, she can clear even at E0. Now moving on to her light cone options. Obviously the first and best one is going to be her signature light cone. Whereabouts should dreams rest? It's just going to give you a huge amount of break effects, and then when you deal break damage, it's going to inflict a debuff on the enemies, and they're just going to receive break damage increased by 24%, which is pretty good. Also, their speed is going to be lowered by 20%, which is also pretty good. So they're going to take actions much slower and keep them broken for a long time. So yeah, that's definitely going to be her best in slot weapon, but it's not like by a huge margin, or it's not even like necessarily like that. You can definitely get away with many other weapons. For example, we have the free to play on the Fall of an Aeon. It's just going to be giving you like decent attack, and as we've seen before, Firefly can convert attack to break efficiency or break effects, I'm sorry. So it's not going to be like too bad. Any like that can give you attack are going to be usable. So yeah, it's going to be pretty usable too, especially for a free to play weapon. It's definitely good. You can also use the 4-star Indelible Promise. It's just going to give you break effects, which is always good. The crit rate doesn't really matter as much, so the only thing you're getting from this weapon is going to be the break effects, especially if you have like super impositions on it. It's definitely going to be a super good light cone. Those are mainly the weapons you want to use, but as I said before, any weapons that can give you some attack are going to be pretty decent. Weapons that can give you break effects, those are it mainly. All of an Aeons is going to be giving you like a huge amount of attack, so it's also going to be pretty good. But for break effects weapons, you just only have 2 right now. But for the rest, any weapon that can give you a little bit of attack is going to be pretty good. Whether it's the rest of the 5 stars, even their high base attack is going to be still appreciated because any attack buffs are just going to be better. Any 4-star light cone that can give you attack, stuff like that, all of these are going to be usable. So yeah, but mainly you probably just want to use on the Fall of an Aeon if you're free to play, and that's it. Now moving on to her relic sets. Her best set that you'd want to use on her, and the obvious set, is going to be the Iron Cavalry against the Scourge. It's literally just custom made for her. It's going to increase your break effects from the 2-piece, and then from the 4-piece, if you have more than 150% or higher break effects, which you're going to easily have with Firefly, it's going to allow you to ignore defense on your break damage and also your super break damage. Defense ignore is definitely going to be like a very rare stat, so having it on both your break damage and your super break damage, which are the main sources of damage on Sam, that's definitely going to be pretty valuable, and you definitely want to use this set on Firefly. Eventually, you'd want to farm it and have a 4-piece if you want to take your Firefly seriously. In the meanwhile though, if you didn't farm yet, you can use other sets. The 4-piece Watchmaker is also going to be pretty good. It's going to increase your break effects by a lot. Like the Thief of the Shooting Meteor is going to work. It's pretty much just going to be like a double 2-piece for break effect, or like 2 break effect 2-pieces like Thief of the Shooting Meteor and then the Iron, or you can mix like 2 pieces, just like 2-piece break effects effects as I said, or like a 2-piece break effect, 2-piece attack, 2 pieces of attack, whatever. But yeah, mainly you probably just want to farm her set. It's gonna be much better. That defense ignore is gonna be irreplaceable in my opinion. So yeah, I'd say just probably farm her set and it's gonna be much better. Now moving on to your relic stats. For the main stats, it actually is going to be pretty simple. You just want to have attack on your body. That's pretty much the only option you can have. You don't have speed on your boots. You're going to need her pretty fast. And even with the ultimate buff, you're still going to need her to be built like fast. So you're definitely going to need speed on your boots. On your sphere, usually you just want attack. So that's the thing you'd want to go for. It's also going to give you break effects. So it's going to be a very valuable stat. And then finally on your rope, obviously you just want to go break effects. And that's it. Pretty simple main stats. For the sub stats, you want to focus on getting enough break effects, and then you want to get attack and then speed. Those are the stats you want to aim for on your substats. For the final stats you want to have on your Firefly, for your attack you'd want to have more than 2500 probably. That's going to be a very reasonable amount of attack to aim for. More than that is not going to hurt because there's no cap on how much attack is going to be converted to break effects, but around 2500 is probably going to be the right place. A little less or more is going to be okay, but yeah, you just want to aim for 2500 attack. For your break effects, you definitely want to get the full 360 to max out her skill multiplier and then also the bonus from your Ascension trace. But that's going to be with full buffs, by the way. So that's going to be break effects from, you know, Firefly's stats herself, like your light cone, your rope, substats and stuff like that. But that's also including like the buffs that you can get like from the Harmony Trailblazer on May, the buffs she gives herself from your attack, whatever. So yeah, it might be a little bit hard, but not too hard to achieve. Or at least something close to that. Like 340, 330 is also going to be okay. But yeah, speaking of her buffs, now finally moving on to her team comps. There's not really much to say here, to be honest. She's just a hyper carry. She's gonna deal break damage, so you just want characters who can buff her break damage in general. Or maybe some characters who can deal some of their own damage. But mainly you just want characters who can buff her. So the first one is just gonna be Ron May. Ron May is gonna be super good with Firefly. I know she's a 5-star character, but if you're planning to go for Firefly, I'd say just heavily consider getting Ron May because she's gonna give you a lot of break effects and then also break efficiency and stuff like that. She's gonna make playing Firefly just much easier and better. So yeah, she's definitely gonna be her best support and the most necessary to play with Firefly. She can work without her, but definitely consider getting Ron May if you don't have her. If you don't have Ron May, you can probably replace her with something like Gallagher, for example. It's just gonna be like your sustain / damage dealer because it's also gonna be deal that break damage, or another like break character like Luca, whatever. But it's definitely not gonna be ideal. Your second support is gonna be the Harmony Trailblazer. It's just gonna be also giving you some break effects, but then also allowing you to deal like super break damage much more consistently with higher multipliers. So you definitely want to have your Harmony Trailblazer too. It's gonna be free to play, so everyone's gonna have him, and it's gonna allow you to deal very huge amounts of super break damage with Firefly. So yeah, you definitely want to have him. And then finally, you just want to have a good sustain on her. As I said before, like Gallagher is gonna work, or you can have just any normal sustain like Aventurine, for example, Lucha, Ho-Ho, whatever. Any of those is gonna work. You definitely just want to have a sustain on your team. I know she looks like she can sustain herself, but it's not really gonna be super ideal because she's also gonna be consuming a lot of her own HP. So her self-sustain is probably not gonna be enough. And as I said before, you also need other characters to be sustained, as she's not the only one on the team. So you still want to play a normal sustain on her team. It's definitely very recommended. But yeah, that's pretty much your only Firefly team in general. It's gonna be pretty free to play friendly. Well, except for Ron May, of course. If you don't have Ron May, you can just manage with other characters, but she's definitely gonna be the better option. That's the only like problem for free to plays. Other than that, you have probably a free sustain, free Harmony MC, then you have your Firefly and you're good. But yeah, that's it. Make sure you download Raid Shadow Legends from the link in the description and the QR code. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. See you guys next video. Peace.